Hello, welcome to this informational video on caffeine use. We're going to look at the benefits of caffeine use, some disadvantages and drawbacks. Next, we'll address the NCAA's guidelines and regulations regarding caffeine use. And finally, we'll look at some recommendations. So first of all, some benefits of using caffeine. So caffeine has been shown to decrease pain and also the perception of fatigue. So when training at higher intensity and experiencing less pain and the perception of fatigue, an athlete is able to push harder through those difficult training bouts. As well, an increase in muscle fiber recruitment has been noted, which obviously leads to greater force production from the muscles. Also, a perceived decrease in the exertion of exercise during submaximal resistance training, which will prolong a training session. So we'll get more repetitions to failure. However, that does not necessarily lead to an increase in the one repetition max. Also, we see enhanced endurance performance in the range of 70 to 75% of VO2 max, lasting for a duration of 15 minutes to roughly 2 hours. And as well, there are some psychological benefits as well. So we have improved mood, mental alertness, and then also, obviously, as described above, energetic arousal, which has been increased as well. The type of athlete who would benefit from caffeine usage would be would be obviously an endurance athlete. Looking at this point here, anyone going between 15 and 120 minutes. As well, some of your common team sports that involve a mixture of strength, endurance, and power. So sports like basketball, soccer, hockey, and football. Some disadvantages of caffeine use. High consumption. So in this case, between 6 and 9 milligrams per kilogram of body weight can cause gastrointestinal issues, nausea, shaking, or overstimulation, obviously dependent on the person. Uh, if a athlete decides to stop taking it, withdrawal symptoms can include things such as headache, fatigue, depression, insomnia, increased heart rate, and blood pressure. Also, it should be noted that not everybody will experience the same positive effects from caffeine use. Some people are considered non-responders and thus will not experience the benefits previously mentioned. And also its use for sprint events between 30 seconds and 3 minutes is still somewhat inconclusive and not recommended. There's a chart here to show how much caffeine you are consuming. So just looking at some common beverages and food items that are consumed and how many milligrams of caffeine are found in those. Now, to address the NCAA's guidelines and regulations regarding caffeine usage, in section 1.11 of the NCAA's drug testing protocol program, it states a positive drug test for caffeine would be if the concentration in urine exceeds 15 micrograms per milliliter. And on the next slide, we're going to address exactly how much that is. Then that would be considered a positive. So it is a banned substance, although it can be consumed in up into the amount that we see here. So anything below 15 micrograms per milliliter found in urine. Also, another important point is that in section 4.5.1, it's stated that athletes in Division I sports are subject to year-round testing. So it's not just in season, it could be out of season, preseason as well. So an athlete must ensure that they are abiding by those standards year-round. And finally, some recommendations to make after looking at some of this data and evidence. Obviously, we want to adhere to the NCAA's regulations in order to maintain our eligibility. Now, as mentioned, we want to avoid consuming excessive amounts. And just to give you an idea of what an excessive amount is, 17.53 milligrams per kilogram of body weight is the equivalent of 8 cups of coffee in a single sitting. So that's obviously quite excessive. So that is the amount required to reach this 15 microgram um, per milliliter concentration in urine. So obviously we're talking quite a large amount of caffeine that must be ingested in order to be tested as positive. However, that does not mean we should attempt to get right below that level, and we're going to talk about that in a subsequent point. Caffeine is a great supplement to be consumed for increased performance while training. So it's banned up to this amount, but obviously it can be consumed below that, and it has been proven to be effective for the reasons that we mentioned previously. 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight 60 minutes prior to exercise or competition is a general recommendation. Now, for certain individuals, maybe a little bit less is needed, or for others, maybe a little bit more. So this is just a general number. You would have to figure out what works best for you personally for the specifics of how your body works. And then finally, pay attention to how caffeine is influencing you. And as previously mentioned, you might need to adjust the dosage as needed, or if you're experiencing some of those negative implications of caffeine use, you might want to seek the advice of a nutritionist to see if you need to reduce or if there's some other factor that is influencing your performance. I hope you found that video educational and useful. Thank you.